Hello and welcome to Mr. Goczkowski, who is running for mayor in the April 6, 2021 consolidated election. Thank you for participating in this candidate interview.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I will be asking a variety of questions which were developed in collaboration between the Maine West Westerner, student newspaper, and Pi Sigma Pi Social Science Honor Society. You will have 2 minutes to share your answer to each question. When the 2 minutes have passed, I will ask that you only take a few seconds to finish your thought so that we can move on to the next question. Now, let's start with question number 1. We would like to know, if you had 2 minutes to address the people of Des Plaines, what would you say?
That's a great question. So I think I would start by saying, if I had 2 minutes, that Des Plaines residents have a lot here to love. We live in a community that is very diverse, largely very safe, and quite prosperous. And I think it's something that we should all be aware of. COVID-19 over the last year has been a challenge. We've lost many businesses, and unfortunately, we've lost about 200 of our neighbors here in Des Plaines. But at the same time, I've seen dramatic resiliency. I've seen, neighbors helping their neighbors by having a food pantry on their corner. I've seen social service agencies taking in enormous amounts of donations and then turning those back around to the people that need it in our communities. And I've seen businesses continue to persevere and take steps to try and continue to operate and serve their clients safely in our community. And I think it says great things. Now, can the city do better? The answer is, of course, yes. I think that if we elect good people with the right vision for what the city can become, if we work together and we come together as a community to build something better, I think we really can build a better Des Plaines, a better, more connected community that includes all the demographics of our area, a vibrant city center downtown with the Des Plaines Theater, and restaurants and things of recreational value down there as well, and a responsible government with elected officials that have open ears and open minds, and professional staff that want to help residents when they come to them with a need. So we live somewhere great, and there's a lot of potential, and we need to come together and continue to build upon what we've already got to build something better.
Thank you for your reply. We will now turn to our second question. Again, you will have 2 minutes to provide your answer. And our second question is, how do you plan on managing the spread of COVID-19 in our community, and what are your priorities?
Oh, thank you for the question. So, Des Plaines has felt the impacts of COVID-19 pretty significantly. Our infection rate is much higher than most of our neighbors. We have over 8,000 of our residents that have been infected with COVID at some point over the last year. And as I've said, we've lost, by latest count, 201 Des Plaines residents to this disease. So it's something that we need to take very seriously. It's something that we can't sort of shove in the corner and pretend is not there. Now, that being said, the Cook County Department of Public Health is the health body that's managing the health side of this response. And so they have a lot to do with coordinating vaccination sites and, the mitigation efforts that are imposed by the governor, et cetera. However, I think that the city has a really critical role to play. They need to be directing residents and businesses to available resources to help them get through the times. We need to keep the residents and businesses informed into the state of COVID in our community and what efforts are needed to slow its spread or to combat it. If I could criticize the city about one thing in this, it's that they were not as open and upfront and sort of present in the minds of residents as they could be with this crisis and what we need to do and what steps need to be taken. So, the city needs to be a leader, and city leaders need to lead, and they need to inform. And that's why I have, from the start, had a newsletter where I put out this information. I have a very active social media feed just to try and make sure that residents have access to the things that they need to know about COVID, in addition to a host of other things. But that being said, the city's done a number of things really well, too. I know that the city's had, flexibility on water bills. We've suspended water shutoffs. we work with residents who are struggling right now because of COVID to ensure that we're not cutting off access to necessary services. On the back end of the crisis, come next spring, I think that the city should look real hard at investing in a COVID recovery fund to help businesses get back on their feet, dust off, reopen, and try and succeed. And finally, I would like to say that I think that our community would be a great site for a mass vaccination facility. Given the fact that our infection rate is significantly higher than most of our neighbors, I think that that's something we should be working with the Cook County Department of Public Health on, finding a location here, making sure that we can get as many people vaccinated as soon as we can.
Thank you for your answer. Please take the next 2 minutes to respond to our third question. For the third question, we'd like you to tell voters how do you plan to improve infrastructure, keeping in mind issues such as flooding, rundown areas, sustainability, and climate change?
Oh, thank you. So, Des Plaines has longstanding issues with things that are mentioned here, with flooding, and in particular, that's a major issue that's impacted significant areas of our city over many decades. And I want to say that the city's done a great job working with other levels of government to try and address flooding and other needs. For example, my day job is with a member of Congress, and we worked with the city over a number of years to make an agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers and some local communities to establish a series of levees that have dramatically reduced flooding in major parts of the city. We're also working ongoing with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to purchase homes in floodways over by Big Bend Lake and demolish those homes, returning it to green space, rather than spending dollars over and over again to repair homes that will just be destroyed or damaged in the next flood. I know that the city is very aggressive in pursuing grant funds, so we have a number of bicycle paths that are currently going to be under construction with Cook County ITEP grant dollars. And the city's also been aggressive about pursuing other ways for residents to save money, like shifting where we purchase our water supply from the city of Chicago principally to the Northwest Water Commission, which will save us a large sum of money over the long term. Moving forward, I think we need to continue to find ways to work with other levels of government to invest in things like this and meet our residents' needs. And I also think that we need to think in terms of a future where climate change is more present in our daily lives. So I would like to see us look at the possibility of community solar, where we can and invest in renewable energy sources in a way that could actually save residents in the pocketbook by, letting them pay less to ComEd because we've invested in this facility that's a renewable source. In addition, I think that there are, large municipal projects where we will have opportunities to consider sustainable solutions integrated in with very limited costs but long-term payoff. Finally, when it comes to private development, I'd like to see us continue to push them to incorporate similar sort of forward-thinking, sustainable designs.
Thank you for your answer. I would like for you to now consider our fourth question. The fourth question is, what is something you want to see added or changed in the downtown area in order to provide recreational activities and promote local businesses?
That's a really good question. So I think that the downtown area in Des Plaines is sort of the heart of the city, and we need to take steps to make sure that it continues to thrive. I'd like to see a downtown where businesses want to go because there's people there, and they go and they establish a presence and they succeed and they thrive. The Des Plaines Theater is something that's been many years sort of in the making here as we purchased the property and we've been renovating it. And I think that that is going to be the catalyst to what happens in our downtown area. If that succeeds and we get hundreds of people down there each and every day, those people will want to go to restaurants. Those people will want to shop. They'll want to make an evening of it. And so we need to do whatever we can to make that theater a success, and it will then help our businesses become successful also. I think that we can do that by growing what would basically be a theater and restaurant district downtown. I'd like to see, us establish some sort of a zone with some incentives to make it easier for restaurants to open, consolidate people so that they have many options by which to choose, and then they will go there and they will spend money and we'll all benefit as a result. I also think that the city needs to look at addressing the elephant in the room, which is Metropolitan Square. It's clearly not being managed in a way that's for the best interest of our community or our residents, and that's something that we need to think about addressing in a strategic way. Finally, I'd like to see some sort of a community green or a community center. Right now in Metropolitan Square, there's an area where we have the Christmas tree, but I would like to see a green space where people are going to be encouraged to sort of spend time and relax, and that will help our businesses over there as well. But it needs to be done in a more thoughtful way that's not just cold concrete. So those are sort of my ideas for the short term, what we can do in the downtown area.
Thank you for your explanation. For our fifth question, we'd like to know, if elected, how do you plan to build an equitable relationship with the community and the schools in our city while making your presence known?
Thank you for the question. So, what I had said early on is that one of the things that I love about Des Plaines is how diverse our community is. We have a very significant Polish population, and we have a significant German population, and we have a South Asian population, and we have a Hispanic population. And what I would like to do is engage with all of these different communities to ensure that they know that, we think that they're an important part of the fabric of Des Plaines, and we care about what they think, and we want them to be included and engaged. And so something that I've thought about in my role as the community services chairman on the city council now is trying to find a way to establish a multicultural advisory group, which is something that I envision having leaders, both faith and non-faith leaders from the various communities, and they would meet with city staff on a fairly regular basis, and it would basically be relationship building. The city would talk to these people, and they'd say, these are our priorities right now. We want to make sure that the residents hear about, steps needed to stay safe from COVID, and this is our new trash plan, and you need to do this to sign up for whatever programs are available. And it would give these leaders from the community the opportunity to come back and say, I've been hearing from residents that they're having real issues with, things that are going on in their community on this part of the city, or they're having a hard time with businesses over here. Is it something that we can look into? And by doing that, we can build a meaningful dialogue that sort of reduces cynicism and also gets them to buy into participatory democracy and engaging with the city, and making the most of our services. And I think that that's sort of a foundational piece to establishing more equitable and inclusive community. Also, we have significant social service funding that goes on in the city, where we work with a lot of third-party social service agencies and organizations. And I think that that's something where we should actively engage with them on a more regular basis to hear feedback about what they're seeing in the community, what the needs are that they feel are being addressed and what aren't, so we can more thoughtfully and sort of aggressively, perhaps, invest taxpayer dollars for better results.
Thank you for your answer. Let's shift now to our sixth question. For our sixth question, please explain what you plan on doing with the city's budget within your term, and what areas of the budget would you prioritize?
Right. So, the city has for a number of years now been really good about passing responsible budgets. Our debt as a city has gone down dramatically. And right now we've sort of taken on this mantra of we pay for projects with money that we have instead of borrowing and having to pay it back later. And I think that those are ideas that are fiscally sound, and they're respectful of taxpayer dollars. And it's something that I would like to see continue. So in the years ahead, I would like to see us continue to try and find ways to do that without raising property taxes, which is something that the city has been successful at doing for many years now. The COVID crisis has given us some significant challenges. Right now, we are facing approximately $10 million in shortfall due to the lack of sales tax and other revenue sources coming into the city. But it's something that we've been able to do without having layoffs of city staff, without dramatically cutting city services, and without raising taxes and things like that on the residents. So I think that we're going to work hard to find smart and responsible ways to have a budget that makes sense, that does not unduly tax residents. And we're going to do so in a way that maximizes those tax dollars to the best effect. Some investment priorities that I've been thinking about include, small business supports. We have small business grant programs that are in place now. And again, as I had said, on the other end of the COVID crisis, we're probably going to want to supercharge those to help businesses get back on their feet and get back to where they need to be sustainable and to succeed over the long term. I'd also like to see some additional investment in community engagement processes like I talked about. I'd like to see us have multicultural events. I'd like to see us celebrate Diwali in addition to, Christmas, in addition to other things from other communities, to ensure that they're all being included and brought into the fold of our community. Finally, again, those social service supports, I think that we need to talk to them about the dollars that we're investing and what additional things need to be done to help those in need in our community.
Thank you for your reply. For our 7th question, we would like to know, how do you plan to expand and promote education in Des Plaines, particularly education about our city's history and culture?
Good question. So, I think that there are some resources in Des Plaines that are really, really well structured and really well put together, but we definitely could stand to hold them up and get them more engaged with the community. The first of those would be the Des Plaines History Center, which is an amazing resource for our community. It's located downtown, and their entire mission involves, preserving the history of the city, providing programming to residents to learn about those that came before us. I think that this is something that is invaluable, and I would definitely support initiatives to, bring the History Center into our schools in a more active way, provided there are opportunities to do so, to hook our students up and let them know about those who came before us, so that they have an appreciation for our community and deeper roots to where we're at today. I also think that the Des Plaines Library is always looking for opportunities to work with students of all ages, whether they're school age or they're adults, and they have a wealth of resources to the point that the library is winning all sorts of awards. So these are sort of the city-focused aspects. The Des Plaines Library does receive funding from the city in a direct way, and that the History Center receives additional funding, although they do their own fundraising. So these are ways that we can sort of promote entities that can connect people with the past and with our culture, and grow that same sort of feel that I've been talking about.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's move to our next question. As always, you will have 2 minutes to share your answer. For our 8th question, how will you use your platform as mayor to promote equity?
Well, I think that from day one, my focus and my goal will be serving as a mayor for all the residents of Des Plaines, and not just the ones who have come out and voted for me, which is, it's going to be a very small number in relation to the average, to the overall number of residents of the city. So again, I would like to take steps, beginning my first day in office, to reach out to all of the different communities, all of the different demographics of the city, and extend our hand and say, listen, we appreciate you being here. You're an important part of the fabric of our community, and we'd like to see you all, know what we have to offer, know how we can help, and also we'd like to know what you have so we can embrace you and bring you into the fold here in a more direct and cohesive way. I think that by reaching out to all these communities from day one, it'll be an important sort of step one to building a community that is inclusive and is diverse and represents the actual population of the city. Additionally, I think that we need to do that when we think about different options. When we're talking about development in the city, we want to ensure that it's helping everyone from our community somehow have a better experience here, whether it's enhancing transportation options, recreation options, building the downtown area, or the second downtown at Oakton and Lee. I think that we need to make sure that we have an open line of communication with residents, and we're explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, how it benefits them, and what the long-term plan is. And by doing that, I think that you get people who are going to buy into the idea that we have a community that's trying to be connected to the residents in a very real and not one-sided way. And I think that it will breed good things, basically.
Thank you for your answer. For our 9th question, please share your thoughts. Police brutality has become a national issue and of significant concern to many Americans, including police officers. What steps will you take to train Des Plaines police officers so that this problem is addressed on a local level?
That's a good question. I think that sort of the first way that this is typically addressed comes from the top. And as you likely know, the city of Des Plaines just recently hired a new police chief. And this chief brings some great new ideas on policing and how to grow in a community. And I'm supportive of the choice. But the hiring process itself is something that relates to the question, because when the city manager said, okay, we're going to be hiring a new chief, I want to know what your priorities as elected officials are and what you want to see in a chief. And we all sat down and we said, well, we want this, that, and the other. And in particular, from my point of view, I wanted a chief that would focus on building bridges in the community, establishing relationships, sort of trying to find ways to avoid inflaming the divisions and sort of the distrust that's sometimes present in certain groups with the police force. So this was all incorporated in the hiring process. And I know that the manager also talked to Speak Displays, which is one of the organizations that's hosting this particular interview. And they were given the opportunity to also give their input, which was then incorporated into the hiring process. And I have to say that I feel like the result thus far is great. The police chief has very forward-thinking views on how we can build these connections and how we can have a police force that is not distrusted by segments of the population. And I look forward to that sort of paying off in great dividends down the line. I also think that in terms of day-to-day training, we need to make sure that we are, funding social services and other entities that can sort of break the chain in terms of the groups that are more likely to have police interactions. If we can address their needs and make sure that they're getting the support that they need, we can hopefully avoid a lot of those interactions. And then if they do interact with the police, I think that we just need to make sure that they have the training in place where they can safely de-escalate situations that could otherwise go in a different direction. And I know that we have a lot of diligent police officers now, who are already doing these things on a daily basis. So we just need to make sure that they have the tools and the training that they need to continue to do so in a way that's safe and effective.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We have 2 questions left. For our 10th question, we'd like to know, let's say you get elected. When your term is up, how do you envision you will have helped better Des Plaines?
I think that I will view my term in office, if I'm elected to the role of mayor, as a success if the average Des Plaines resident is more informed and engaged about what's going on in the city and how it impacts them than it was when I came in. I also think that I'd like to see a more vibrant city center. As I talked about, there's a lot of potential in the downtown area, and we just need to sort of make sure that we're cultivating it and growing it in a way that is best for all of the residents, and investing appropriately to do so. I also would like to see, as I've come to again and again, a more inclusive community with buy-in from all of our local demographics to make sure that we have a fabric of our community that is reflected in government at all levels if we can. And, we celebrate everyone. We're all here together living in this community, and our kids are all going to the same schools. And I would like to see more of a community feel by taking steps that will actively promote that. And if all that happens, I think that Des Plaines, which is already a great place to live, will be even better for the next generation of kids 4 or 8 years down the line.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. We will now turn to our final question of the day. Is there anything else you would like voters to know?
Yeah, if there's anything else I'd like voters to know, it's that I have spent my entire career working on behalf of Des Plaines residents. Whether it's as an alderman of the 8th Ward, or in my day job working for a local member of Congress, or prior to that working for the city while I was in law school, I have spent my entire career working to make the lives of Des Plaines residents better. And the reason for that is obvious. I was born here. I was brought up here. I grew up behind what is now the Marianos at Gulf Mount Prospect Road, and I met my wife while we were students at Maine West High School. I received a lot of my first ideas about what I wanted to do for a career because I was in Dan Fout's government accelerated class in Maine West. And so I think that, the spark that was struck in me as a student is something that comes with the love of this community, and I'm doing what I can to make it better. And I would just say, if you like what you hear, I'd love if you turn out and take a look at buildabetterdesplaines.org to hear some more of my ideas and see how you can help, build our community in good ways.
That concludes our interview questions. If voters would like more information about your platform or plans, what would be the best way to find out more details?
So we have a Facebook page, which is Build a Better Des Plaines, Andrew Goczkowski for mayor. Or again, buildabetterdesplains.org is a website with information on the platform and how you can volunteer if you're interested, and sort of what we want to see in the city moving forward.
Great. Thank you again for your participation in this interview and for your interest in serving our community.
Oh, thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.